is a gated community. Very, very nice houses. I know other parts of the country, look at that, that's so cool. Other parts of the country, these houses probably be 3 or 4 million. Here, this is pushing the million mark. Probably, you know, 700, 800, 900,000 for one of these houses in this very nice gated community. I love these cobblestone sidewalks. Yeah, this is where, ooh, that's a nice house over there. Too much house for my liking, but all right. I'm just gonna call myself the tile whisperer instead of Star Tile, because when I get called on these jobs, it's when people find my channel after the fact, when they have things go south, and then they're like, hey, we have this going on, we have that going on. So, cut to the chase. Some months ago, this homeowner had called me, and she was concerned about, and I have that video on my channel, I'll put it in the description area, but she had called me about her basement. Her basement was totally finished out at a pretty substantial price. And on that video, I even commented on how all their carpentry and wood trim and doors and all that stuff, and it was all inclusive. And in that video I talk about that. Inclusive meaning all the material, all the nice vanity set and all this stuff is all inclusive. So she spent, or they spent, you know, a boatload of money having this done. But they subbed the tile guy, and the tile guy really shouldn't be doing tile. He shouldn't be doing tile. And when I come in, and on that video I show where there are some issues that he had setting the tile, that it tells me what's underneath is worse. This guy had no business building a shower. To be fair, doing tile work, but definitely not building a shower. And tile people and people in the know will already know, without me saying too much about what's going on. But I digress. On my first video, the concern was there was some green emanating out onto her grout line of her floor and all that stuff. And I had already mentioned at that point that my best take is it's pressure treated wood. What I didn't know until some of the tear out got done, actually by a friend of mine who's gonna completely rebuild this shower, because what we didn't know then when I did that video is how bad things were. So the green definitely emanating from this pressure treated wood, and it's a pressure treated wood that both my friend and I are kind of scratching our heads about, because we have neither one of us have never really seen this green of a pressure treated wood. So that's a little bizarre. The only thing that I can surmise is that it was encapsulated. It was new pressure treated wood that didn't have enough time to kind of cure out and all that stuff, and then it got encapsulated, and then it got wet, and that wetness permeated through this whole area and kind of, yeah, did its thing. Because this is also, I don't know why he would use pressure treated wood on a vertical. Doesn't make any sense. It is as they say in the South, a hot mess. And as they say out in California, where I'm from, a shit show. This is a relatively new shower. It was built about just over a year ago. And all of this corner bead is rusted out already, which tells me everything I need to know about the curb and the makeup of the curb and all that stuff. And the pan liner, and I'm gonna get into this because it gets pretty deep. The pan liner is not monolithic. The only place that I see a pan liner is right here. And what the homeowner told me, and what is confirmed by my friend when he started doing the tear out, is the pan liner comes from here and goes that way, period. It doesn't go up the wall. And so therefore, the pan liner is absolutely doing no good whatsoever. There's a lot of issues. Let me get into the tile part first and foremost before I get into the shower part, because it matters. These are the bullnose that were up on this wall, right? Where you see thin set. It's just globbed on there. Bullnose, no thin set. Bullnose, and no thin set. Now, so There is some thin set and some of this, what they call fiber rock, which I think is a horrible backer board. Fiber rock is kind of an oxymoron because it's not really, yes, it's fiber, but there's nothing rock about it. You know, it's just a very soft type of material. And then he transitioned over, so he used a couple different boards here. And I don't like this board, I forget the name of it, but it's kind of like a Durarock type of material, but it's got all these little foam pieces in it. And when you cut it with a circular saw, all that foam goes everywhere, so I don't use it, I stay away from it. Having said that, look at that, the transference. This is a stain, this is a stain, this is a stain of that, right? So we already know everything was saturated and all that stuff. It's a horrible, horrible mess. Look at how thick the thin set is on this. And you know, when the tile was put up there, you could see the imprint of the back of the tile, but yet nothing was stuck because he didn't back butter or anything. And then there's sheetrock in here, so he, like I said, you know, 3 or 4 different materials that he was using. And I don't have a problem doing sheetrock, although there was no waterproofing. The best waterproofing that I could ever see in here, if you see that black back there, that is some type of painted on tar material. And you can see it back here also, because my friend was like, what is this stuff? And I'm like, I don't know. So he painted on this tar material onto the fiber rock. In some places, in other places he didn't. No, strike that. I think this got pulled off. I think some of that tar material got pulled off with the tile. But you can clearly see where it's kind of ripped away over here. So having a tar material as your waterproofing is idiotic and didn't do any good, and it won't do any good, especially on fiber rock. You know, it's not meant as a waterproofer in any way, shape, or form. So much to say in so little time. So getting back to the tile part, let me go over that. Some of this tile isn't set too bad. Some of it, you know, had some lippage. When I came here the first time, I noticed a little bit of lippage, but you know, some of it is okay. He didn't follow any type of pattern at all whatsoever, and there should have been, because this is a really, really nice tile. It's a 15 by 30 tile, and it has arrows on it. And so when you see those arrows, see it's going this direction and that direction, you follow those arrows and you have a better likelihood of a pattern being followed. It's a very thick tile, at least 3/8. It looks like 1/2 inch, but it's a very thick, sturdy, rectified tile. So it should have been pristine up there, and it should have had some type of flow with all the veins and all that stuff, but it didn't. And it did have some lippage as we get down here. It's hard for me to focus sometimes because there's so much stuff going on. All of these tile my friend saved. No thin set. Little thin set, but imprint of where the troweling was at. No thin set, no back buttering, no thin set. This is where the shower valve was. No thin set. All of these tile eventually would have fallen off the wall. All of these tile, and fortunately, could be saved. That's the only good thing about doing things wrong, is that a lot of this tile can be saved. In fact, I think all of that is being saved for future use when he rebuilds it, because he is going to rebuild all this stuff. Anyway, I digress again. I get bombarded with so much information I want to put out there to people, DIYers or homeowners who are going to have a job done by a contractor, so-called contractor. This guy had no business being touching tile, buying tile, let alone setting it. These clips, these leveling clips, are cheesy Quep, I think they're Quep brand, and they're sold at Home Depot. And they're for a larger, they're for a smaller tile. I don't have any need for them anyway, because they're so cheesy and just like they're cheap, and they're bowed. And because they're bowed, they definitely had no business in here with this large format tile that's very thick. And so, you know, not even the right clips, not even the right, there's a lot of stuff about the tile that, you know, like I said, kind of speaks for itself. Some of this stuff he had already torn out, so I don't know how this was set in here and all that stuff, so I can't speak to that. There are this this knee wall here isn't sloped. There's no slope, there's nothing going on there. And I know in that first video I did, the curb was not sloped either. And when he did the curb, he did the double bull nose all the way around, and there's no need for that. You can tell these bull nose were kind of shoddily cut. And so my take on it is he had those bull nose made, or he made them himself. Either which way, it would be easier and nicer to have one solid piece of tile that's double bull nosed rather than have this line go down the way that it did originally. And you can see clearly where that line was. So that's just my take on it. Just a little bit of tile critique. But as far as building a shower, no, he had there's nothing in here. Look at this. This thin set is so thick and was useless because that's all of that. Anyway, getting on to the pan liner that I had already kind of briefly gone over and said that it's just one piece that doesn't go up the wall. Maybe I didn't say that, but I'm saying it now. This pan liner did no good whatsoever because it's one piece that went flat on the floor. And as the tear out was being done, you can clearly see there's no pan liner. So, as a rule of thumb, the pan liner should, and there's no scabbing, the pan liner should go 3 inches above the curb. Why he chose to use only 2 pieces of wood, I don't know. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But yeah, 3 inches above the curb, which means you should have had at least 3 inches, if not 4 or 5, showing through here, and there's none. So the pan liner, being improperly installed, already would have begat a failure. The fasteners down here low, which they all are, and rusted out, already begets a failure. It wasn't wrapped correctly, it wasn't waterproofed. There was nothing done here that was correct insofar as making a shower that's going to last any type of time. In fact, yeah, this is still wet. There's so much to say. I didn't even get to the what I showed over here earlier, why this happened. When you trail out thin set on a wall, you know, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, yeah, it shouldn't be all wavy, you know, let's just do it this way and that way. It should be one direction, right? A lot of people choose this direction. I usually choose that direction only because it's easier to compress those ridges with your tile once you push it on there and have all that air kind of escape from a shorter than a longer, this being 30 inches long, right? Everywhere you look, there is no bonding in effect. Again, imprint of the tile, which means there's no bonding. Look at that, the arrow imprint is on there. That's crazy. So there's no compression, there's no 80%, 90% coverage on any of this tile, any of it. It would have fallen off, and potentially, especially those, God, can you imagine that just falling off of the wall onto your head? Crazy. This fiber rock material I have no use for. I don't like it at all whatsoever. It's just cheesy. Having said that, had he used the fiber rock and properly waterproofed it and properly, you know, like put something into the seams, which he didn't, and I kind of showed that over here. There's nothing between the seams of the boards at all. There's no thin set, there's no waterproofing, no nothing. So yeah, water has a lot of ways to egress out of this shower because of the way he chose to build it. And it was a choice. And all the work that he did, look at this fiber rock, it's garbage. It's just garbage. Anyway, I get caught up in some of this weird stuff. Where was I at? I interrupted my thought. Imprint of tile again. None of this tile was set right. There wasn't any compression of this thin set. It was just a horrible job that didn't need to be horrible. It's just as easy to do it right that it is, you know, do it wrong. As much effort as he put in to do it wrong. Another thing that I noticed too, because I came in and started doing kind of a demo of the floor because I wanted to see the floor makeup. And what I noticed was at floor level, let me see if I can grab it. We're at floor level, concrete level now, which almost goes up to there. So concrete level there. He had maybe an inch worth of of, and it wasn't even like deck mud or anything like that. I'm not sure what it was. I think what it is a hydraulic cement or something that he used, but it's very, very thin. And when I got into this wood, I'm like, uh-oh, which is not good. Anytime I say uh-oh. So what he did is he used 1x as a screed to get his slope and left the 1x inside of the pan. And you can clearly see right there that bottoms out about, you know, 1.5 or whatever. So the pan material onto this concrete slab is very thin to begin with. And then the wood is stuck in there and there's no waterproofing. So inevitably water would have soaked up all of this, because I know that it's all around the perimeter, would have soaked up. It would have been there's so many failures on here that a leak would be the least of their problem. A leak of the shower would be the least of their problem. Tile falling off the wall, wood popping up the floor tile, just one thing after another would have just been a catastrophe. You know, one after the other. They would have tried to mitigate one, and then the other one would have happened. It's just, it's a horrible, horrible. No excuses. Look at this garbage. This is why I don't like fiber rock. Yeah, no pan material. It's just, it's a shame. As I said on, and I referenced on the other video that I did of this place, they spent a good amount of money, upwards of $200,000, you know, to have this whole basement finished out. And part of that $200,000 is this shower, and it all has to be redone. All of the labor and all of the time and effort and material is now going to be wasted and then spent a second time. And it's totally, totally, totally unnecessary. You know, had the contractor hired the right tile guy. So yeah, I have pushed the homeowner back a couple months ago when I came here, and I'm reiterating again to sue the contractor to get reimbursed for all of this stuff, because it's garbage. And the contractor who subbed the guy is ultimately responsible for that guy's work. And it's disgusting and vile, especially in this neighborhood. I mean, in any neighborhood for that matter, but especially here. Yeah. Anyway, it's all I have to say. I hope somebody learned something from all of this stuff. You know, I really do. It's just, it's an abysmal waste of money. Usually I'm coming in for little minor things like, look at this drain cover. This drain cover is the cheesiest one you can get at Home Depot. And they have better ones that are only a few dollars more. And then the screws are cockeyed. My symmetry would have made those screws that way or that way, but pick one. And then the cheesiness of it. And then it feels like it's sloped going down that way. I think water pools. It must pool over here. I don't have my level with me, but I can eyeball it and tell. Let's say he just did red guard on the entire thing, right? And there's some pushback on that by Isaac Ostrom, because he purports that you shouldn't be waterproofing the pan surface, which is not true at all. The pan surface, and then wrap around some as I do in my shower builds, around the barrel of the drain, put some silicone, and I put white silicone and I overlap that with my red guard. That's the Achilles heel, right? Water's not going to get into your pan. So again, he's putting Kerdi, and a lot of tile guys put Kerdi on top of their pan material. There's no difference between my topical waterproofing membrane and this sheet membrane. There's no difference whatsoever. If you trust this to be a waterproofer, then why don't you trust the liquid membrane to be a waterproofer on top of your pan mortar, right? We don't do water in, water out systems anymore. You know, things are changing. We're doing things differently. We're making sure that we're not going to have a failure. And if you're not having a failure with this, and you're not having a failure with your liquid topical membrane, then there's no harm, no foul. And for him to say that, you know, you don't mix up material, that you never mix material. Anytime somebody says never, and, you know, like, hey, if you enjoyed that video and you learned something, consider being a Patreon member. $5, $10, $15 a month would help me greatly produce more videos. I make nothing from YouTube at all. If you're gonna call me for advice, please donate $50 for 30 minutes. My link to my PayPal and my Patreon account is down below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get immediate notifications as soon as I post videos. And thank you very much for your support.